Hello, everybody. Welcome to TMF Week 2025. It's our first day at TMF Week, and it's all about TMF Essentials 101. I want to welcome you all to a wonderful session today with Jared. And Jared, that is quite a lovely background you have there, I must
Thank
say.
you. It keeps the house warm in these.
I love that. Yes, you need that this time. Yeah, to keep it nice and warm, toasty, very
Toasty.
cozy. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I have to say that you've been kind of like a veteran speaker here at TMF Week, right? About 3-4 years now. This is going to be
Yeah,
your solo, right?
I believe it will be. Yes. Last year I did TMF Life
Mm-hmm.
with Brandon Winfield. That went very well, but
Okay.
trying to do this presentation on my own.
Love it. Okay, so let's get started right now. And I'm just gonna say welcome everybody once again to TMF Week 2025. This is our third session, sorry, second session of the day, I should say. I'm getting ahead of myself. I just want to know that everyone is basically in the chat right now. If you can let us know where you are dialing in from around the world. So just let us know where you're coming in from right now in the chat. Okay, we have some people from San Diego, Italy, North Carolina, Houston. All right, loving it. It's a little bit all over the place. So this is great stuff. I'm going to move on. Before we get onto the presentation, I would like to move on to a little bit of housekeeping rules. So as you know, all sessions are recorded. So you don't have to worry if you miss something, you can go back to it, but the recording will only be available after the conference ends. So it will be after this week, you'll be able to revisit the recordings. All attendees will receive a certificate of attendance for the entire TMF Week conference. So you can show off, what you learned. You could show off that you attended on LinkedIn and, just basically brag about going to TMF Week. And you don't have to attend one session. You could basically attend one session. You don't have to attend all of them. So that's what's great about like the certificate of attendance. Just to let you know, the questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you look to the right of you, there is a panel, an engagement panel where you have chat, docs, and Q&A. So just put in your Q&A, your questions in the Q&A section. As you can see there, there's a doc of Jared's presentation. And just so that you know, after the sessions, most of the presentations, you can visit the lounge so you can do some networking with your peers and even with some of the speakers as well. Just want to go over the session timeline. So right now, we're going to be going through the presentation. After that, that's going to be around 30 minutes. After that, we're going to do a question and answer period, 15 minutes that will take. And then after that, we'll introduce the next session, and then you can get to mingle with your peers. So without further ado, I am going to hand it over to Jared Ruslin to talk about a tale of two TMF departments. So I am going to just
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
The Tale of Two TMFs, presented by myself, the 9th of June, 2025. About the author, I've had over a decade of experience here in the eTMF sphere of influence. I've worked with the smallest of CROs and sponsors to the largest CROs. Really, my niche is in training folks, really building that culture of TMF excitement, which I do currently at Intellia Therapeutics. And so this Roll right now, what we're going to be discussing is the tale of two TMFs. Legal disclaimer, the views expressed and information discussed in this presentation is of Jared Bruslin and Jared Bruslin alone. It is not the views, opinions, thoughts shared by Montreal Intellia Therapeutics or any of their affiliates. This is the table of contents. What is your background? Life in a large TMF department? Finding your voice in a crowded space? Life in a small TMF department? Finding a voice in small spaces? In questions and answers. Before we begin, I'm going to read a little quote. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. These words may mean as much today as they were written over 100 years ago by Charles Dickens. But for the new TMF'ers, these words should resonate as we discuss the tale of two TMFs. So before we get there, let's see who you all are by taking part in 5 anonymous questions. Kim, if you would add the questions.
I'm going to be starting off a poll, and it is open right now. If you look to your right side of your screen, there should be a poll that's up. And it is, what is your experience in the TMF sphere of influence? So please take your, choose your choice right now. We're going to let that run for a little bit, and then we will share the results.
Yes, I'm curious to see if you've had 1 year or less experience, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 5, 5 to 10, or are you more senior, 10 plus years in the eTMF sphere of influence? And that can be a range of TMF specialists, document specialists, managers, associate directors, really anything that touches the TMF. Or the eTMF, I like to say, is really the system of record.
So I'm going to close the poll now in 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm going to close that and sharing the results. Does anything surprise you here, Jared?
Actually, more people that have 10 years of experience surprises me. But it's good to see we do have a mix of ranges of experience. So this presentation really is touching upon really A, B, and C groups, but certainly open to hearing from people that have more than 10 years experience and what they've seen in the past. And that will probably come towards the end of the session during the Q&A section. So now we have an understanding of how many years experience. Let's go to the next question.
Next question is now open. How many people in your how many people are in your eTMF department? A, 1, just me. 2, B, 2 to 3 people. C, 4 to 5 people. D, 6 to 10 people. And E, 11 plus people. And you're very lucky if you do. If you head over to the poll, right? I'm just saying. So if you head over to the right side of the, right, exactly. If you head over to the right side of the screen, you'll see that the poll has been activated. So we just love to get your answers in.
Man, I've been in departments with over 20 people, 25 or global CROs with a huge TMF department. And I've been in others where it's been me, maybe 1 or 2 other people. And the number of TMFs that I've managed doesn't dwindle based on the number of people in the department. So I've managed as many TMFs as just 1 or 2 people in my department as I did with over 20 people in my department.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going to close this now. I'm going to close the poll, and I'm going to share the results with you now.
17 of you, just yourself. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that always the case?
It is. I mean, that's really what I think TMF Week is about, is sharing this knowledge. Yeah. Because as we'll see, you may have joined a company and you realize, wait, I'm the only one? Like, who do I go to for questions or advice?
And you can't split yourself down the middle. So that's basically how that works. You can't really split yourself down the middle. And I guess maybe that's where you develop different personalities as well. So to
You
help you
do, and
deal with
different
that.
tactics that we'll talk about
Yeah.
as well. And 2 to 3, I've seen that common. I was at a place, it was 2 of us, then it became 3, then, we had some reduction, then it dropped down to just 2, then 1. Yeah, and sometimes it falls to the study teams because there really isn't much of a TMF department. And those
Right.
that are probably, I'm guessing, that have 11 or more, I'm thinking those are the larger, maybe CROs or sponsor sides that have multiple TMFs that they're working through.
Yeah. There's only the
Let's
one
go to the
term that's
next
11 or more.
question.
Sure thing. Opening up the next poll.
Is your
So
TMF department, I'll let you speak it.
again, let me just close this. Okay, here we go. So the poll is running now. You can read the next question. It is your TMF department established? And we have A, yes, it has been around for 19 or more. Sorry about that. Has been around more than 5 years. B, yes, it has been around for 2 to 5 years. And no, it has not. It has been around for less than 2 years. So we're going to run that. Do you have any thoughts about who will be the winner on this or what people will select the most?
With 17 people that were just the TMF department of themselves, I'm thinking more people will say that their TMF department is on the less experienced side. I'm thinking a lot of smaller sponsors, maybe biotech startups that have recently realized, wait, we've come further with our drug development than we maybe anticipated. We're going to expect some inspections in the meantime. Let's create our TMF department now. So we have the documents they've been hiding maybe in a SharePoint system, which we know aren't always compliant with those regulations. So let's create a TMF system that we can kind of hold. And those people that are just by themselves are just kind of figuring out where things go and how to create their maps. So I'll be curious to see.
And here is the results for question 3. Is your TMF department established? So a good whopping, yes, yeah, almost 45%, almost half. Yeah.
More than 5. That's good. Yeah, it's a big mix of things. So you'll see as we discuss the different departments, some of the pitfalls you may find yourself in and ways you can get out of those. I think we have 2 more questions left, and then we can dive into further discussion.
Absolutely. I have opened the 4th question. Does your TMF department own or hold the eTMF, or is it outsourced? So A, yes, B, no, C, we hold some, but not all eTMFs.
Yeah, so I've been in situations where we have held all the eTMFs, and I call them eTMFs because we know that TMFs is a broader term that holds meaning for documents that are held in other systems, maybe your safety system, your regulatory system, your contracts, maybe in a different system. But specifically when I'm trying to talk eTMF, it's those monitoring systems, those Vivas, those ClinTracks, those Trial Interactive, those Flex Global TMF systems that really hold those documents using the reference model. So for my experiences, I've been where we are the holders. Other times that we've split the responsibility between ourselves and the CRO. And currently our eTMFs were held by CROs, but we brought them all in-house. So we hold all the eTMFs for our oversight.
I'm just going to share the results here. And I'm going to move on to the next question. So as we can see here, it's over 15%, because I definitely want to get into the meat of your presentation. So it would seem that over half said yes to this question.
They hold the TMFs. That's great.
Yeah. And I'm going to open the last question. Yes, I'm going to open the last question here. How many eTMFs do you manage?
And you manage just one?
1, lucky. 2 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or 16 and plus. My goodness, that's 16 and plus.
When I
That's a
was at a
lot.
larger CRO, we held about 12 each, which
Oh,
was quite a
wow.
number. They're trying to, reduce that number. Certainly, some TMFs require more handling than others. Presently, I have near almost 10 eTMFs that I manage. Certainly manageable based on where we are with each of the studies, but I'm curious to see. I'd love to see if anyone just has that one eTMF.
Currently, there is. We have
Wow,
16%
that's
that said
great.
one. Yeah.
And I'd love to be able to correlate that with either your years of experience or if that your actual eTMF. But it's very interesting. But yeah, it looks like the majority is 2 to 5.
Okay.
So
So yeah, I'm
perfect.
just looking back here. 2 to 5 is the majority that we see here. So I'm gonna get into your presentation now.
Wonderful. So I discussed earlier that this is the tale of two TMFs. So the large TMFs and the small TMFs, and this could be for the department, is really what it speaks towards. So chapter 1, we did, what is your background? Chapter 2, life in a large TMF. And these TMFs, and I'm talking these departments that may have 20, 25 people, maybe even more, oftentimes they'll assign you a mentor. And I think if you don't get assigned a mentor, you should ask. I've been in situations where I did get assigned a mentor, and it's great. These departments will provide you opportunities to share knowledge, either your background or especially their mentor's background. And it's an area to banter back and forth. Perhaps it was easier in the days when we were all in the office. I remember I was in one company where there were about 25 cubicles filled with TMF leads and managers as well. So there was an opportunity to share ideas back and forth. It may be a little bit more difficult, and you can't just get up and walk over that cubicle in these remote areas, remote times, but still very important. Also, when you join a large TMF department, the TMF system is probably established. I've been in situations where they had an established TMF, but then they migrated to a less known TMF, so it was kind of a learning curve. But oftentimes, everything has been created for you, like the TMF plan templates, the maps. It's really just a cut and paste. It's funny, I remember the first time I had a call with a study team. There was a script that I was supposed to read, and I just had to read the script, and it just told the people on the call everything that I was going to be doing for them. But you run into things because when I joined the call, everyone else on the call had known each other. They're all kind of like, yeah, we know. So, you run into this where you provided something, but it doesn't always turn out the way you expect it to. So those things can come up with these larger TMF departments. And then oftentimes you'll find metrics are tried and true. They are the gospel of how you show what is the health of your eTMF. But you do encounter some issues with those. So we're going to look at ways to kind of get your voice heard. Because as I said, when I was given that script to speak during the meeting, I realized that people either had heard it before or they just didn't pay attention to it. It really didn't fit the needs of the study. So these are some ways for chapter 3 that you can kind of find your voice. One way is to look at the metrics. Do those metrics really add value? I remember I was at one company and we were providing metrics. Everyone was providing the same metrics. And honestly, I wasn't understanding the full scope of the metrics. So I looked at them and I said, is there a way that I can kind of change the metrics so they make sense to me and that I feel that they'll make more sense to the people that are reviewing them? And so that's what we did, or that's what I did. So I brought it to my manager. I explained where I was getting these metrics from, what value they added, and it really changed the metrics that I was providing to my study teams. Another way is to look at new processes. When I joined one company, I noticed that there really wasn't an onboarding platform for new TMF'ers to join. It's kind of they kind of throw you into the fire. They would tell us that it would take maybe 6 months or more for us to really learn the eTMF system and the processes, and you can get swallowed up, you can get burned out in those situations. So I really think that one should kind of step back and look at, okay, I'm at a large company, There are lots of resources, but is there something that I'm finding on a daily basis that I think I can bring to the table and that can help change maybe the culture or help people that you're finding that are just struggling in this, especially if you're new to the industry and you're really trying to establish yourself, just taking that on. And really that's really goes with, looking for new initiatives. Don't be concerned. You might rock the boat a little bit, but eventually it'll straighten its way and it'll get yourself to the correct port. So I think that is very crucial. And then remind yourself why you're there. I remember one company said that for every person they hired, they had 65 applicants. So you weren't just picked at random. You were there because you showed your leadership, you showed your ability, you showed your knowledge, whether you're brand new to the industry or you've been in it like we saw for over 10 years or even longer. You know your systems, you know the eTMF, you know how to build those relationships in a large company. So I think you taking those advice will really help you strengthen yourself and your department for those larger companies. Chapter 4, life in a small TMF department. As I had mentioned, I've been in the larger TMFs, 20, 25 people globally, and then I've been hired in some small startups where I was all excited. I joined and I was, oh, you're the only one here. Oh, well, that wasn't really explained to me in the interview process. Well, we have some directors you could ask if you do have questions, but for the most part, you are the face of the TMF department. So you're thinking to yourself, oh, so the person who was before me, did they leave me a transition plan? No, they kind of, there wasn't anyone. You're kind of the first. And then you realize it's kind of limited resources. You don't have the structure you might have found in a larger company or a more established TMF department. Even your systems may be different. I remember I went from one company to another and I was so excited. I said, I know everything there is about this particular eTMF system. And they said, that's wonderful, but we're going to do a entirely different eTMF system. So then you find yourself kind of learning that new system, but you can still apply the basic fundamentals of what you learned with the previous eTMF system. We have the TMF reference map. You have a general idea of TMF plan layouts, but you also find that there isn't really a TMF plan or a TMF map that is established. My current company, we established using color coding within the map for both unblinded documents and also documents that are expected for the study but are not held within the actual eTMF system. And so this allows people to say, oh, that regulatory document, we're expecting it, but we're not keeping it in the eTMF, we're going to keep it in this system. Oh, all these contracts, oh, blue means that these contracts are all held in this other system. We expect it, but that is not where it's going to be held. It'll be held over here. So it's really helped people understand the concept of the TMF and the eTMF and where things are held. And lastly, I found that you might be creating SOPs and work instructions that haven't been existing before. You may have gone from a large company where everything is written already. It's just a new version. I found myself often like, wait, why don't we have this SOP? Where is this work instruction? You're building kind of everything from the ground up as the study is progressing. So that can be very challenging in a small TMF department. And I'm hoping these words that I'm saying have resonated with many of you that are on the call, especially those that are in the smaller departments that are finding themselves kind of a bit lost, especially if you came from a larger one. But have no fear. There are things that you can do to alleviate that. Reach out to past colleagues. As I mentioned earlier, last year I presented with Brendan Winfield. He is someone who's on my speed dial. I'll call him up and say, Brandon, I'm running into this situation. What are your thoughts? So I might call up another person, Brian, ask him a question. Really having those connections. If you're new to the industry, you can make those connections within your department as well, or in your company. You can find people or even people that you went to school with, perhaps, just asking those questions. Create guidance documents. One of the things that I did in my smaller departments is I created like a, not so much a Facebook page, but a TMF homepage where I put all these guidance documents that I developed just to help, because if I'm the only one in the department and I'm getting asked the same questions over and over again, I want to make sure that I don't have to keep repeating the same email, that I can direct them somewhere that will have those resources for them so that they can, I always like to say, ask two before me, so they can look at the resources, they can ask another study team member, and then if they still aren't sure, have them come to you or have them and answer those questions. And over time, they learn themselves, how the system works, where to file their documents, how to read the map of the TMF plan. Lastly, design TMF plans and templates that are specific for studies. We have the reference model, and you can borrow, from your memory about how TMF plans look. You can look, there are plenty of websites out there, cdisc.com you could go to. I'm sure there's others that you can go and look up documents or TMF plan templates. You have the general idea of the flow of a TMF, what's expected, what's not expected, and also rely on your study team. They are the experts in their areas: data management, safety, regulatory, clinical, your CTA, your CTM, they have the fundamental ideas of the study workflow. You maybe as a TMF'er know where documents go and the expectation of documents, but really work to rely on your study teams. You're not in a silo. You may feel like you're in a silo, especially in a smaller space, but really you have those opportunities. You can build those relationships, and I think those are really key to being successful. And then metrics. Make sure the metrics works smarter for you than harder. I was borrowing upon past experience where I was creating like PowerPoints of TMF health, and I was really finding that people either ignored them or they looked at them real quickly. And I realized that what I was providing wasn't adding value to the study team. So recently, I was able to export all the documents that have been submitted to each of the studies that I oversee, as well as a placeholder for expected documents. And then I did some sleuthing and learned how to create these called slicers in Excel, where it allows the individual to actually go through and customize the spreadsheets that they receive down to the exact artifact or sub-artifact of a particular document of a particular site from a particular country, based on whether there's still open placeholders, whether there are finalized documents or incomplete documents. It really provides a full picture. So shouldn't be no excuse of saying, oh, I didn't know these documents were expected or not expected, or we fulfilled this expectation, or why do we have 3 of the same documents, or why are these documents named incorrectly? I'm happy to share that using macros, very simple process. And lastly, it's very important to remind yourself why you're there. You're there because you know your stuff. You are the face, especially these smaller EMF departments, these smaller sponsors. You are the face of the TMF department. They've probably got dozens of people interviewing, but they selected you for a reason. And that reason is because you are very good at what you do. And you will become even better. And I think it's very important to just really remind yourself every day, step back and say, you know what, I am good at what I do. I know what I do. I am the SME. You may not know the full scope of a TMF study from start to finish, but you have that understanding of the TMF document process. You understand what inspectors are going to be coming for. You have that relationship with past colleagues, and you have a manager that believed in you enough that they brought you in and they gave you that responsibility. So when the agencies show up to inspect, they know and you know that your TMF will be ready for those inspections. We have everyone doing their homework. We're trying our best to make sure that they file their homework into the correct location. It's, your responsibility that you are able to handle, which I know you can, because why else would you want to be a TMF'er? And I think those are the things really to take with you. And those are the tales of the two TMFs. You will have the best of times, you're excited, and then you'll have the worst of times where things fall on you, and you'll get through it. We all get through it. I think that's really the most important thing to remember. You're not in this alone. We're all on this together. You can always reach out. And I think with that time, I'm open to any questions you may have. You're welcome to contact me if you do need help. I'm happy to walk you through some of the guidance documents that I've created in my past, some of the ways that I've set up study teams to be successful. So there's my email. I'm also at TMF Genius at X and TikTok if you want to see me. Yes, and remember, I love TMF. Very important.
There's so much. Thank you. I like to tell that you love TMF so much. Thank you so much, Jared, for this. From the way that you presented, from this wonderful book of knowledge that you created as a presentation. Absolutely love the golden nugget that you gave there to people who are starting off, that, you know, are trying to find their footing, their voice, and how they can exceed in their role. So I'm just going to share a couple of questions. Let's see what we have here. So here's a good one. And I'm going to approve that.
Is that a real fire? Yes.
Is that real? Very nice and toasty fire in the background. So we have a question. If you were starting a TMF department from scratch, what would you prioritize?
I would prioritize the TMF plan and the index to really align those, particularly with your studies, and really get the functional areas to look at the TMF map, particularly, and go through their sections to understand, are these documents expected? And if they're expected, will you find them in the eTMF, or would a person file them and find them in a different system? I think that is really the key, because oftentimes you're like, oh, it's expected, but where is it? Oh, it's in another system. And so when inspectors come, you want to be able to point them to that other system for them. And then you would create the guidance of how to file. I think that will all come with the system itself. And I'm really a big proponent of having office hours. I will do office hours at midnight for those, you know, CRAs that are in the Asia Pac countries. I will do them, you know, really, because the more legwork you do up front, it'll be easier down the line.
You want to be more proactive than anything. You don't want to be like reactive. And I think that's pretty much on point when it comes to making sure that you have all of your ducks in a row in order to get things done. So thank you for that. I'm going to share another question. Here's one. Is there any industry trends that you wish would change? What advice would you suggest to TMF'ers trying to innovate and streamline their processes?
Well, one of the biggest things is really letting the functional areas know that the pendulum has swung. So when I first started in my career, it was the idea that TMF'ers were the ones responsible for all the quality reviews, all the filing. And since that, the pendulum has swung the other way, where they are the experts, the functional areas are the experts. So they are the ones that should be doing the quality reviews. They're the ones that should be doing the majority of the filing, because they know the documents. They know which documents are more expected. They know really the intricacies of the trial itself, and you're there to guide them. So I think, you know, creating those guidance documents will assist with that. But I think that is probably the key understanding, and that will get them to buy in, because they realize that they're as responsible for the TMF and the inspections that will be forthcoming than you are.
Because you have like a kind of like an ownership, and therefore you're taking
section,
pride in what you're doing.
It's, you know, you're the one that will have to go before the inspector and say, oh yeah, I guess I should have collected those documents at the site, but I thought someone else was. So it really brings ownership on them. And really, that's kind
Absolutely.
of the idea to change that, the mindset of the TMF. It's encompassing the whole study, not just a little silo department.
Got it. I did have a question here. Oh, they're moving. There's a lot of people that are sending questions in. So I'm going to share the next one. This one is from, oops. Hold on a second. And here we go. So Crystal North, I am hoping I'm saying your name correctly, but what is your ideal approach for conducting periodic reviews to ensure completeness? How frequently would you conduct these reviews throughout the year? And what steps would you take when reviewing CRO eTMFs?
I would do pure. So, completeness reviews are tricky because when you have large eTMFs, it could take you 6 months to do one review, and the next thing you know, you're running into another review. So really looking at a more risk-based approach is how I would handle it. We typically do every 6 months. The study teams will do a review of the eTMFs. Sometimes what we do is we look at particular areas or sites or countries that we know are more likely to come under the FDA or MHRA upcoming inspections or audits and focus those on reviews on those. The CRO, especially, I'd look at what their processes are for their SOPs. Certainly, I would, if you have access to their system, I would stick to a 6-month review, maybe start at 10%, 20% of the documents. And then if you're finding continuous issues with those documents, then you create a larger review of that particular section. But, I think trying to do 100% of the documents, I think for any department, especially if you're by yourself, is very daunting. So really start smaller and then see how those reviews go. And then sometimes it may just lead to more retraining. Maybe it's just simply people are not naming them right, or the CRAs may have monitoring visits that they won't get to for another few months. So maybe check back with them in a few more months and make sure they've filed those documents that were missing.
Excellent. And thank you very much, Crystal, for your question. I did have, here's one that might be interesting. I think we were talking about that a little bit before when we were talking about AI as an example. Somebody has asked, what are the scopes and areas where AI can assist in managing TMF? And we've been hearing that a lot lately of like, how can AI help us? Not take over our jobs, but how can they help us?
Yeah, there's certainly an area of human need in the eTMF still, but I think AI can help with suggesting areas where documents can be filed. One thing that I've found is that despite what AI might suggest, depending on the specifics of your study, like one of my studies, we package all the documents that are in a monitoring visit report together. So instead of filing the confirmation letter, the follow-up letter, the report in separate sub-artifacts, we've compiled them as one document. So AI may say, oh, no, these need to go into different sub-artifacts. In our case, no, that's not the case. But AI, I think, in general, can assist with just getting people familiar, suggesting where documents can be filed. I would love to see AI helping with cleanup, having it system go, oh, no, these are named wrong. Let's rename the documents all correctly. That would be $1 billion idea.
I think so too. Yeah, because then you don't have to spend your time like looking very closely to see if everything is okay. You can have, I would say, AI assistant to look through some of the things that are included and let you know if this is correct or not. So
yeah, like the administrative tasks that take you away from your day-to-day oversight. Those where we used to maybe in the past hire people to do those little tasks. AI could maybe do those, and those people could then learn higher level things about the TMF and a better understanding about different areas of the TMF and documents as well.
Absolutely. So we have like a little bit over 5 minutes. I think we can take a couple more questions. I'm going to take a question that came in the chat from Amarjot. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but she was asking, as I get clinical research coordinator, what steps she can take to pursue a career in the trial master file domain.
Well, if you're in that area already with the clinical research coordinator, you already have an understanding, probably better than myself, about the study steps of from inception to closeout. So I would look for opportunities as a document, either TMF lead or TMF document specialist. So you get to see the full scope of all the documents and really look at the TMF map. That will give you a full understanding. It is 11 zones, like 246 artifacts, 500 so sub artifacts, and really understanding the connection between those. I think that will be helpful. And then it may be good to start at a CRO, a larger CRO, that have the space. They're always needing TMF'ers. Then once you're in there for a few years, then you can probably maybe look towards a sponsor where you become the only person in that department. But certainly reach out to me if you want further questions on getting your footing.
All right. I hope Amarjot, I hope you're taking note. His email is right there. You can reach out to him if you have any further questions. So definitely take him up on that.
Also, LinkedIn, I forgot to mention, I'm on LinkedIn, of course. So please reach out on LinkedIn.
That's fun too, that you can do that as well. I'm gonna end off with one question here. And I think this is something that a lot of people go through when it comes to like starting a job and they feel like a fish out of water. Do you have any advice for anyone how to get over the imposter syndrome? A lot of times we feel that way, but we're doing a good job, and maybe like some word of encouragement or advice for somebody who's in the industry, how they can get past that.
I mean, that gets me even today. I'm over 10 years in, and once in a while I'm like, wow, what am I doing here? It's really just reminding yourself that, you were chosen. You interviewed, not just one person interviewed you. I'm sure several people interviewed you, and you have that within you to lead a TMF department, to provide for your study teams. And just, I think, remind yourself that you are the SME. The TMF. There may be areas that you need to improve upon. I know I have a few areas that I have to continually work on. But, just believe in yourself. You're there. As Dr. Seuss said, you're there for a reason. I think he said that.
Why not? We'll say that he did.
Why not, Dr. Seuss? So I think, and just every day, just kind of remind yourself. And if there is an area that you're concerned about, spend that extra time to review it. Spend that extra hour, maybe even after you clock out, just reviewing how to do quality reviews, or reviewing how your system works, or looking at, what questions were asked of you by study team members that you were not 100% sure of. And then I bet 9 out of 10 times you're like, wow, I was right. I am right. That was the answer. And I think over time you realize that, yep, I know my stuff.
I love that. And that's a very good point as well. I think it's building that confidence. And as day goes by, you build a little bit more, and the more confident you will be to just become an expert, just like you, Jared. So that will be good. So I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions. There's quite a bit of them. And Jared, I don't know if maybe you want to continue a discussion in the lounge if you have time. If not, that's okay. But maybe continue on the conversation as well. If not, you guys have Jared's, you can find him on LinkedIn, and just like touch base with him and ask him any of the questions there. We can also go through the questions that we have and get that going. So I just want to let you guys know that the next session is going to be at 11, and it's all about streamlining the TMF reference model for optimal clinical trial document management. And that is going to be with Kat Novak, and maybe perhaps a special guest. So with that, I just wanted to let you know that it's time for networking. It's time for networking break. Head over to the lounge, chat with your peers, just get to know one another. This is a community. And we want people to get in touch with each other, share ideas, meet new people, and just have fun at the same time, because TMF, too much fun, that's what it's all about. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Jared, for this wonderful presentation. I loved it. I'm also happy to host you. It's always a pleasure. And I hope to see you again, TMF Week, next year. And to all of those who showed up, thank you so much for all of your great questions, for your participation, and we'll see you at the next one. But don't forget to mingle and in the lounge, okay?
So I leave the stage and then I go to the lounge?
Yeah, we can leave the stage and go to the lounge. So have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you all very much. I enjoyed this. I hope you did as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, all.